What historic moment inspired King Charles to recall his dear late mother? How is it that this week we had not one, not two, not three, but 4 new additions to the British royal family? And what the heck is Hexit? Lots to come on this week's episode of Palace Confidential. Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin, and on today's panel we have a double dose of Richards, the Daily Mail's editor-at-large Richard Kay and the paper's diary editor Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Now, have you joined the over 440,000 people who have already subscribed to the Daily Mail Royal YouTube channel? If you haven't, are you okay? We are getting so close to the 450,000 subscriber mark, so please help us by clicking the subscribe button below. It's free and it ensures that you never miss another episode of Palace Confidential or any of our other great royal content, including a special news series called Acting Royal, which premiered this week. I'll have more on that for you later. Also coming up, our very own Rebecca English's exclusive video diary from Ottawa that even name checks some of our wonderful Canadian viewers. You've got to stick around for all of that. What a show. And we've only just started. Well, so let's get to my panel. Richard Kay, welcome to you. Now, King Charles received a very warm welcome in Canada this week, and we've got a lot of very loyal, lovely Canadian viewers who are watching the show. So what did you make of the reception he got?
Oh, it was a terrific reception, and I think it really played to what very strong themes which are going on in North America and in Canada in particular. First of all, of course, it was the King's first visit as monarch, and they're very particular about the fact that in Canada, Charles is King of Canada. He's not the King of England on an overseas trip. He's coming home, and in fact, he was greeted on multiple occasions by the phrase, welcome home. And I think that was a key to the whole thing, but also, of course, the underlying current in this brief visit, and it was only 24 hours, was the sort of rebuke, if that is the right word, that he was delivering to President Trump's ambitions to annex Canada, a vital part of the British Commonwealth, as America's 51st state.
It's interesting, isn't it, Richard Eden? Because royal commentators, including Rebecca English, have written about Charles walking this so-called political tightrope in Ottawa. How do you think he's done with that?
I think he's done very well. I mean, it genuinely has been a tightrope because at the same time as this visit, the British government is keen to keep the new American president, Donald Trump, on side. So that's the challenge for the King. And I think, I wouldn't underestimate it, I think he has played a big role in trying to calm tensions, frankly. And you'll notice that Trump has piped down a bit recently. You know, he had Mark Carney at the White House, but he does seem to have toned down the rhetoric a lot. And I think the King's played a part in that because Donald Trump is, he loves the royal family and is looking forward to visiting Britain. So I think he is more and more aware of those sensitivities.
But it's not a neutral statement, is it, to rush there on a seemingly short notice planned state visit?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was done deliberately in response to Trump's ambitions. And I hear what Richard says, but it shouldn't be forgotten that on the moment that the King arrived in Canada, Trump was tweeting or posting messages on True Social about how he hopes that Canada will join the Golden Dome defense mechanism that he wants to erect all over the United States, which he says would be free for Canadians if they become the 51st state. So the rhetoric hasn't dialed down from the White House quite yet.
No, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we're really proud of the politically neutral space the royal family has and needs to have. But inevitably in these sorts of world situations, you will be dragged into these discussions one way or another.
And it's extremely difficult for members of the royal family because however we like to phrase them as international statesmen, they're not. They're figureheads of a constitutional monarchy, and they're very circumscribed by what they can say and how they say it. And although we know, because Richard and I have followed Charles as an outspoken Prince of Wales for many, many years, he must have been bursting to say something more, but of course he very much reflects the wishes of both the British government and the Canadian government in what he can say.
It is tricky. But so, Richard Eden, what do the other members of the royal family do during times like Charles's state visit?
Well, the answer to that is as little as possible. You know,
that sounds nice.
It's an important sort of geopolitical visit. It's important for Britain and for Canada. So generally, other members of the royal family don't do anything to take the headlines away. But what we've seen this week is that doesn't affect ex-working royals like Harry and Meghan.
I was going to say, who could you be referring to?
So it wasn't just the King making a foreign visit this week. It was Harry, who, this was quite a surprise. He turned up in Shanghai, China. So we're all wondering, you know, what's he doing there, visiting this communist, in my opinion, appalling regime? Well, he was there for a tourism conference. He's involved in this. It's not a charity, but it's an organisation, Travelist, which is all involved in
the eco-travel.
Eco-travel. So he got on his jet and racked up a few more air miles to get over to this conference in China. But obviously that's sensitive. He's done it when the King is in Canada. But also, I would say it's very interesting. I'd love to know more about why he's there. Is he forging new business links? You know, we know that he and Meghan are very keen to make a lot of money.
Do you see that as something provocative, Richard Kay, or just coincidence?
I think it is. On this occasion, it's coincidence. The King's visit to Canada was, in royal terms, scheduled at the last minute. Certainly it was not in the royal planning 6 months ago when most royal visits are planned. I mean, Princess Anne was also out and about on the day that the King was in Canada. Quite rightly so. We'll probably be discussing that a bit later on, the visit that she was on. And I think it is difficult to completely coordinate all diaries when you get a sudden addition, like you've got to go and open the Parliament in Ottawa.
I guess the Uber critics might say that, you know, he was flying commercial. He could have read the room and cancelled that trip.
He could have read the room. He could have done it on Zoom. I mean, did he really have to travel all that way for a meet and greet? Because that's what it looked like.
Let's be clear, we've seen Harry on this video call so many times. I mean, to take an example, the Diana Awards. I remember once he was in some lovely chalet on a ski holiday with various rich friends, and you saw him in this chalet chatting to the winners of the Diana Award. So on that occasion, he felt fine to do it from video. He didn't want to interrupt his holiday.
No.
But in this case, he's felt the need to fly over to China. So
I think what we've come to learn about Harry over the last 5 years is Harry will do what suits Harry.
Yeah, I think you're right. But let's just go back to this state visit for a second, Richard Kay. You've been on a lot of them. What is it like? And do you have a standout memory from one?
Well, state visits are usually longer than 24 hours. The interesting thing about this flying visit by the King and Queen is that they remained, I'm told, by Buckingham Palace on UK time. So one of the problems you get on a tour where you're, say, 8 or 9 hours away from the UK, you've got to adjust your body. And on this occasion, they knew they simply weren't going to have enough time to do that. So credit to the King, who's still having cancer treatment. Credit to the Queen, who's come to this life late in life, in her 70s, where she's sort of on permanent public show. And yet they had to sort of, subsume their natural tiredness and fatigue and to carry out a full day and a bit of engagements. For my own memories of the last time I think I went to Canada with Charles, he was then Prince Charles, and he was still married to Diana, so his previous wife. It was shortly before the couple separated, and they were always very popular in Canada, and the royals like going to Canada. It's a home from home for them. And I remember that one of the engagements was opening a new hospital, and perfectly straightforward, standard royal visit. They're opening a hospital, and they went into a ward, and then all the beds are laid out, and they're apparently patients all sitting there or in bed under the covers, and Diana, I think, chats to some of them. She sat on sat on a couple of beds. Anyway, afterwards, after the royals had gone, we discovered that all the patients were actors. The hospital wasn't actually technically ready, so they couldn't actually have real patients.
It sounds a bit North Korean, doesn't it?
Did Diana know about this?
No, it emerged afterwards. It was hilarious. It made a very funny story, of course, and these guys revealed to us, we're just actors, and they pulled back the bedclothes, and they were fully clothed. They weren't in pyjamas or waiting for operations.
I'm just absolutely, that is quite a story. But of course, that was also, was it not the trip where we got that amazing bit of footage that became so synonymous with Diana, with the boys running into her arms?
Yeah, fantastic. I'm not sure who ran, Diana or William and Harry, but they were meeting after several days apart on the Royal Yacht Britannia. It's a historic piece of footage.
And because it was so different for the royals at the time to be that tactile with their kids in
swooping them up
public,
off,
It's fascinating, wasn't it? Well, the King and Queen aren't the only troopers on that state visit. If you are wondering where Rebecca English is today, you've guessed it, she is recovering from her whistle-stop 48 hours in Canada with Charles and Camilla. We let her go and have a rest. But she has sent us a very special video diary from Ottawa, which is coming up later in the show, and you won't want to miss it because it features some Palace Confidential viewers, so stay tuned for that. And speaking of all our wonderful viewers from around the world, it's time for your comments. So after watching the previous episode of Palace Confidential, Elsa Dixon wrote, "Last week, I was granted British citizenship. I'm an American, but my mother is British. And I took an oath of allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. I felt quite emotional when the officiant declared me a British citizen, and what a more perfect way to celebrate this great honour than to watch the very best show on the Royal News, Palace Confidential." Oh, that's lovely. Congratulations, Elsa. I know exactly that feeling of getting your British citizenship, so I'm with you there. Now, responding to Rebecca's news that Camilla's new puppy Molly is chewing through the royal furniture, Diana Marie P wrote in with a very hot life hack. "Greetings from Oz, Rebecca. Please pass on to the Queen hot English mustard on the chair legs. Puppo will never go back to them again." Oh my goodness. "My dad, born in Nottingham, smothered our chewed wood in it and never to be touched again. Our border collie pup is now a happy 10-year-old. And probably with a very, very great disdain for hot mustard. Carmel Deacon was so moved by our Chelsea Flower Show montage that she commented, "Those beautiful photos of our late beloved Queen made me cry. We miss you, Your Majesty." We are so glad you enjoyed it, Carmel. Make sure to stick around for another one of our world famous montages at the end of this episode, showing the King and Queen Camilla on their monumental visit to Canada, plus an exclusive video diary from Rebecca, as I mentioned. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the brand new series Acting Royal dropped on the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel this week, starring our very own Richard Eden, Rebecca English, and friend of the show, Charlotte Griffiths. The trio sat down to watch fictional portrayals of Harry and Meghan across film and TV.
This is very cheeky to include this, isn't it?
Gosh, did they pay you a lot for that?
Some of those were outrageous.
Well, it's safe to say their reactions are hilarious, and the show is already receiving some glowing reviews. So, commenting on the first episode, Enia, I hope I've got your name right, said, "I watch you every single day, all the way from Mexico. I'm such a big fan. Richard and Rebecca, you two are absolutely brilliant together. I truly love this new format. It's fresh, engaging, and so well produced. Please continue with the royal content." While Jackie Zay, again, I hope I've said that right, Jackie Zay or Z, he wrote, "It's my birthday. I'm 74. Well, happy birthday. And I was feeling a bit down. Then your video popped up. Hilarious. Thank you for all the belly laughs. Great job." And Lexi Mitch said, "Please, please, please have them do the South Park show or at least clips. That was great, but too short." Well, not only do we hear you, Lexi, but I can exclusively reveal that South Park will feature in the second episode of Acting Royal, which is coming very soon. Now, if you want to be notified about when it is coming out, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for all those comments and the overwhelming love for our new series, Acting Royal, part one of which will play directly after this episode. Right, back to the two Richards, almost as iconic as the two Ronnies. Now, Richard Eden, you wrote a really interesting column for Mail Plus this week. It was all about Meghan Markle basically telling tales of herself.
Well, that's one way of putting it. It's the ongoing, rather chaotic saga, I have to say, about the launch of her lifestyle business. Was American Review Era Orchard.
Yes.
Now it's As Ever.
Yes.
This week she
not With Love after the TV show, just to give all the three names.
Yeah. So this week she gave an interview, which was really rather odd. She was, okay, let's put this in context. So people might remember that she launched her website, As Ever, with products to buy. It was mainly things like jams and sprinkles of flowers to put on food. Very expensive. Anyway, it sold out almost immediately. And if you go to the website now, it's got all these signs, sold out, sold out. Anyway, people are wondering, when's she going to restock this stuff? You know, she must have more jam, tucked away.
Well, it takes a while to make.
But it's been weeks and weeks and no more jam. Anyway, so she's given an interview to suggest there may be no more jam. She said that Sort of that was it, and they're reassessing everything, and it may be not till next year. They said the second quarter, so it could be like 10 months before there are any new products. And they might not be jams or anything. They might be completely new things, such as sort of in the hospitality sphere, she was saying. I think like kind of tableware, cutlery, this type of thing. But it's just sort of added to the air of chaos and mess which has surrounded this brand.
It just feels like throwing a lot of things at a wall and seeing what sticks, doesn't it? It's odd.
Well, I think that's almost what she's admitted, because she sort of said, oh, we want to see what's popular. But it's a very unusual way to launch a business, because anyone else, you would think, what's the point of this business? What are we going to sell? And then you'd have enough of it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just have a few things and then see if they sell or not.
What do you both think is the future for As Ever? Because it feels like this is a massive loss in momentum.
Yeah, I agree. And I also agree with Richard. It seems that she's sort of dipping her toe in the water and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But plainly, whatever one's criticisms of Meghan, and they're manifold, the fact is the jam, for example, proved extremely popular, and yet she didn't produce enough of it. There was a huge hullabaloo around it, but you can't get it. So it's a bit like that old wartime phrase, jam tomorrow but never jam today. And she's in a jam, let's face it, over it, quite frankly. I don't know, I think you're right. I think she is throwing out ideas, seeing what sticks, what gets the most, gets some momentum behind it.
Yeah, I suppose in one sense it's entrepreneurially brave, it's courageous to be honest about it.
I don't know, we've seen this a lot with Meghan, sort of and Harry before, where they kind of, certainly in Meghan's case, she's very keen to get the publicity, very keen to announce things.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't really happen. So initially when she launched her website or the Instagram page for American Riviera Orchard, it was a whole year before anything happened. And it's been interesting. I have to say, I think the number of followers for her Instagram page has been dipping a bit. And it's just, it seems like she's sort of keen for the attention, keen for the publicity, but doesn't really have a plan for how to make it work.
And now we know that she sets herself the admin task every night of emailing her children. I mean, that takes a lot of time as well, doesn't it?
Hello.
It's just crazy. Now, the Daily Mail's Alison Boshoff, your colleague, revealed on Saturday that a third series of With Love with Meghan will, quote unquote, almost certainly be commissioned. Apparently the boss of Netflix is a big fan. So a question to you both, will you be tuning in?
Oh, please. The things I've had to endure for this programme.
And you will endure more.
No, it was a really interesting piece by Alison Boshoff, because essentially people will remember that when Harry and Meghan signed their deal with Netflix, it was big. There were estimates of sort of $75 million, $100 million, and it was for production. They were going to be making lots of different programmes. Well, what Alison was reporting is that any future deal will be much smaller. So it will be a sort of case-by-case basis. So yes, we'll contract you for another series of this, and probably Harry won't be involved so much.
I have to correct myself. I think I said With Love from Meghan, or it's With Love Meghan, isn't it? What about you, Richard Kay?
I find it the television equivalent of waterboarding. Please make it stop. I'll tell you anything you want. I suppose out of professional curiosity, I will have to watch it. I sort of forced my way through the first series. I mean, the thing that Netflix have hooked onto is, of course, that it's a win-win for them, because all the negative publicity surrounding the first series drove viewers' numbers,
it does.
and they're going to cash in on that.
And I have to admit, one of my guilty pleasures is all the parodies that turn up on Instagram.
Indeed.
I mean, they're just joyous.
We should know, though, I mean, it's a real transformation. I mean, the whole, what Harry and Meghan had wanted was to be producers. They were going to be a sort of, powerful production company making different things. But that, it hasn't really happened. And we've seen with Harry's programmes, about Polo and Invictus, that it hasn't made much of a splash.
Well, speaking of Harry, Richard Kay, whether we're watching Meghan's Netflix show or not, there's talk of Hexit, which is Harry moving away from Meghan's business ventures. Now, this week, Charlotte Griffiths in the Mail on Sunday said that they have each hired a separate chief of staff. And from somebody who's never had a chief of staff before, what does this mean for them?
Well, I think these are American phrases for very much an American operation. And one of the things that Charlotte wrote about in the Mail on Sunday was sort of likening this whole setup to a royal household, to a royal court, if you like. But in fact, if you drill down into it, it's nothing like a royal household. All the people they've employed are working primarily in marketing and promotion. Those are their backgrounds. Within the royal households, in my experience, they've mostly employed people with a sort of civil service background. So it's an entirely different setup. What is intriguing is that all the people all seem to be basically have the same job, which is to promote Harry and Meghan and sort of deal with their publicity. Are they going to be firefighting? Are they going to try and get to grips with a huge amount of negative publicity that there seems to be surrounding this couple whenever they do anything? That seems to me what they want to get to grips with.
How many staff do we think they have?
That's a very good question. I mean, how many were in that list, Richard?
Yeah,
because I keep hearing that they keep needing to make money. How could they?
And what's it costing them?
Yeah,
what it struck
on top
me,
of security, etc., etc.
Yeah, what it struck me when I saw this feature was, you thought, my goodness, really, are they employing that many people? I think that they highlighted about 10 people. And you think, you need serious money to pay these salaries. And Charlotte made the point that they're all on big money. So, they're going to have to generate a lot of money, and perhaps that's why old Harry was in China this week.
So, can we assume from this development that there's this conscious decision to separate Meghan and Harry's business brands, and that they want to present themselves as individuals rather than a couple?
Well, we've seen that more and more. I mean, definitely, when they moved to America, the whole point was they were a couple. They were a joint unit. There were comparisons made with, they're going to be the new Obamas or something like that, the new Clooneys. But we've seen them separate, and it's almost, I think it's been deliberate. We've seen, Meghan attending red carpet events on her own, and then there's been suggestions that Harry would concentrate on sort of philanthropic ventures while Meghan would be earning the money. But yeah, they definitely seem to be having that sort of professional separation.
With their separate brands, do you think that they've kind of coming to a place where they feel like their brands separately are stronger, or even that one's brand is damaging the other?
Well, there's no question. You can tell that the pattern is that they're separating their commercial interests because both feel the other tarnishes them, and I think it particularly applies to Meghan. I mean, Meghan has been quite absent from a huge number of Harry's engagements, his roles over the last 12, 18 months. And I think that's a distinct policy to kind of avoid the travails which seem to follow Harry around more than they do Meghan.
That must be an awkward conversation in a marriage, though.
Yeah, I think it is awkward.
It's business,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say look at their podcasts. When they recorded the pilot for Spotify, it was both of them. They're on this podcast. They had big guests like Elton John. And the idea was, here's this couple. They're going to be bringing their big friends. But when it actually appeared, it took ages. But when the series appeared, it was Archetypes, and it was just Meghan.
Yeah.
And then again, she signed a new podcast deal, and it's just her.
Interesting. Watch this space. Now, I did promise you that Rebecca's exclusive report from Canada is coming up soon. But first, we do have a couple of bits of royal housekeeping. Richard Kay, as I mentioned earlier, there's been not one, not two, not three, but 4 new additions to the royal household. Tell us.
Indeed, the patter of tiny feet, or rather tiny paws. The Waleses have welcomed a litter of puppies to their dog Orla, the black spaniel, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a delightful story.
So sweet. Are they keeping them all?
Well, that's the story. The reports, so far unconfirmed, are that the children, George, Louis and Charlotte, want to keep the entire litter for themselves.
I don't blame them.
Whether they will or not, we don't know. Watch this space.
Have there been some pictures already with the puppies?
I can't see the parents letting them keep all the puppies,
Why
can
not?
you?
They've got space. Oh.
They've got space, they've got plenty of houses.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, come on. Keep the pups. Now, just changing tack, there's obviously been an absolutely dreadful piece of news come from Liverpool in Britain this week. And as ever, Princess Anne stepped up in our time of need, didn't she?
Yes, I mean, while her brother the King was in Canada, Princess Anne went to hospital to visit those recovering, surviving this the terrible incident with a car driven into the crowds that were there celebrating Liverpool Football Club's league win. They're in the streets, and she was there to meet emergency first responders as well as those recovering. So, it's one of those visits. To be honest, I think the King would have done it if he was here.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Princess Anne is that she's always there, and she's always happy to carry out engagements on behalf of her brother.
And I'm sure they appreciate it. We're sending all our love to everybody affected in Liverpool. It's just dreadful, isn't it? Yeah. It's but now it is time, if you heard that, for the Unsung Royal Hero of the Week. Now, I have to say, I'm not sure if this is so much an unsung. I think we can just get rid of the unsung.
Okay.
But who is your nominated hero, Richard Kate?
She's a much sung member, let's face it. It is Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales.
I have heard of her, yes.
Yeah. But she's, she hasn't done as much as we would love to see her doing for obvious reasons over the last 12 months, but very slowly she's sort of getting back on the public stage.
Absolutely.
And it was great to see her launching that ship. And the thing which struck me, of course, was that there are these sort of nods to her late mother-in-law, Princess Diana, in the outfits she was wearing, the jewellery she had on. And I think people are always looking for these little signs. William spoke very movingly at the time of their engagement about how he wanted Princess Diana to be part of their journey throughout their lives. And I think she has been. And it's lovely seeing Kate involving herself in this too.
She did look absolutely stunning.
She did. It's such a shame that Catherine never met Diana, isn't it?
I was about to say, you like to think that they would have
I think
been
they would
a
have
great
got
team.
on really well, yeah.
It's such a shame. Also, another shame is I remember covering a similar ship launch which Diana did up in the northwest of England. And in those days, ships still went down the slipway and you saw the bottle smashing against the hull as it went into the water. They don't do that anymore when we launch our ships. It's a great shame, but nevertheless, it was a fantastic moment.
I can't imagine many things more satisfying than that smash of the bottle against the boat.
What a waste of whiskey, as Prince William commented.
Champagne in England, whiskey in Scotland.
Okay, now you know everything. Well, now a word from the lovely Rebecca English, who has sent us a special video message all the way from Ottawa.
I'm here in Ottawa as King Charles and Queen Camilla embark on a whirlwind 24-hour visit to Canada. Now, he's here, of course, not as a UK sovereign, but in his role as monarch and head of state in Canada. And this visit is being seen as particularly timely because, of course, many Canadians are deeply angered and aggrieved by comments made by US President Donald Trump that he wishes to annex Canada and make it America's 51st state. It's why many Canadians view the King's visit here to open Canada's new session parliament as much about re-establishing their country's sovereignty in the eyes of a world at a very sensitive geopolitical time. At the same time, however, the King has to find a way to carry out these objectives while bearing in mind the British government's determination to put him at the forefront of their charm offensive with the US president. But people I've spoken to at Buckingham Palace assure me that if anyone can do this, it's the King. He has spent a lifetime, more than 60 years, as an international statesman and knows full well the limits of his role as a constitutional monarch, but the way he can harness these kind of legendary power of soft diplomacy. And if the scenes I saw in Ottawa today are anything to go by, I think King Charles and Queen Camilla will continue to receive the warmest of welcomes throughout their time here. Many thousands upon thousands of people turned out just to catch a glimpse of them, many having queued for hours. I heard several impromptu versions of God Save the King and O Canada. The King shook hundreds upon hundreds of hands. He dropped a ceremonial puck for a street hockey game. And even I noticed, rather pointedly you might think, hold up a couple of jars of maple syrup he had bought for the cameras. On a personal note, can I just thank the many dozens of Palace Confidential fans who I saw today, either shouting out, waving, or even actually got the chance to meet in person. There was Bernadette, Diane, Teresa, Leonard, May, Francis. I mean, almost too many of you to mention. It's always really, really nice to hear from you, and I shall pass on your admiration for Joe's patience and Richard's socks.
Richard, you've got to give all the intel on your socks. The fans want to know. Where do you get them?
I'm not giving details of my underwear.
Why not? It's not underwear. We can see it.
Only
it's not
if,
underwear.
Okay. Only if they sponsor me. They've got to sponsor me.
Oh, he's thinking. Well, that was absolutely lovely, that diary. We really hope you should be back next week with us to tell us all about her trip to Canada, which I believe King Charles and Queen Camilla were also involved with somehow, just in the background. So anyway, now to mark their historic visit for the state opening of Parliament in Ottawa, we've put together one of our world-famous montages for you to enjoy. I've enjoyed this chat. Thank you very much. A reminder that if you want to watch more of all of this sort of thing, all things royal, subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals channel. Up next is the first episode of Acting Royal. You can click here for that. And there's just enough time now to say thanks to Richards, Eden and Kay. And of course, as always, to you for watching. We'll see you next time on Palace Confidential. Goodbye.